Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Giants Guys podcast, dedicated to New York Giants football.
Good evening, Craig.
Good evening. It's still daytime.
All right, well, I'm in a dark room. I'm in a studio. So it's always evening.
That's true. I'm good. Everything is good. You know, a giant win to celebrate, make some of the fan base happy, and of course, upsets some part of the fan base because they think that they need to tank. And as I've said many times, that doesn't happen in the NFL. So, lot to talk about. And how about yourself? How's everything up there in NYC?
Everything here is great. It's snowing right now, and it's not even Thanksgiving. So, I feel like I'm in Detroit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got some snow
That's not
down
a good
here,
feeling, by the way.
No, nothing good about feeling like you're in Detroit.
Unless you're Devin Kennard or Romeo Okwara getting those sacks and snacks
Oh,
for the Lions.
well,
3 guys the Giants just pretty much gave away.
So interesting you say that because I was looking at 2 of the Giants' recent losing years, right?
Okay.
And I'm looking it back up for you now. So I took 2 years, over the last 15 years that the Giants were bad, right?
You did some homework.
I did some homework. I know that behooves me, but I did some homework. And in 2003, the Giants were 4-12. Okay,
Strahan, yes, and that's when they canned Jim Fossil.
Exactly. Now let's just purely look at what you were just referring to with Kennard and Snacks and Aquara, right?
Yes.
2003, the Giants were 4-12. Michael Strahan had 18.5 sacks, 76 tackles, 23 for a loss. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
In 2001, the Giants were 7-9. Michael Strahan had 22.5 sacks, 73 tackles, 24 for a loss. Star pass rushers step up when the team is bad, and they lead by example. And the Giants have a player by the name of Olivier Vernon.
They do?
They do, because the payroll says it.
Oh, okay.
On the field is a different story. He has now played, since coming back from a high ankle sprain, he has played 4 games. He has 8 tackles and 1 sack. And he averages $1 million per game.
Wow, that's a bargain.
What do you do with a player that just doesn't produce on any level, gets paid these crazy money that Jerry Reese gave him, and then you say, well, the team is bad? I just gave you 2 examples of a really bad Giants teams and a really great dynamic pass rusher and what they did. What is up with this guy?
Okay, well, I can't tell you why he's not producing. He looked like he was going to have a nice year coming out of training camp, coming out of preseason. Then he hurt his ankle, and he just hasn't gotten on track. He missed the first 5 games, and since he's come back, he's done nothing. I think he had a quarterback hit the other night. 1 tackle and a quarterback hit, right?
Yeah.
That's what he had.
He's got, like I said, a total of 8 tackles. 8 tackles! I mean, you should have 8 tackles a game.
Here's the issue with Vernon. It doesn't, even if they release him, it's going to cost them. In 2019, that's next year.
Yep.
Okay? His dead cap figure would be $8 million.
It's a lot of money.
If you keep him, all right, it's 19. He's going to be 19.5. That's going to be his cap hit.
What do you do though? I mean, because
and in 2020 it's 19.5. So, but his dead cap would be $4 million at that point.
A whole nother year with this guy.
So his contract goes out to 2020. See, the issue is that, they pretty much locked themselves into this guy. You're going to have to eat $12 million if you dump the guy. You know what I'm saying?
He's got to take a pay cut or something. I mean, it's almost like
but guys just don't take pay cuts unless you extend them out.
I know, but what do you do with
a guy?
You
don't want him any longer than you have to have him.
But do you bench him?
I think they'll cut his snaps down. I think you'll see a lot more of a guy like Lorenzo Carter. You know, they don't really have a lot of choice. You know,
I'm just amazed at how little he actually does. I mean, I had to look it up because, again, you brought up Kennard and Snacks and Aquara and I guess now I don't know who Patricia chose as the defensive coordinator in Detroit.
Not sure, no.
But I'm sure he's running the show because that's his baby.
Yep.
He's using these guys, and some new scenery has done them well. But
those two guys, Kennard he was hurt a lot, but when he was healthy and when he was a rookie, I mean, early in his career, he showed a propensity to rush the passer. He could do it, and Aquara, right. Every time he played, you could see that he had talent in the pass rushing game.
Yep.
So why did they get rid of these two guys and bring in guys like Kareem Martin? Because he knew Betcher's system, but the guy's not a good player.
No, he needs to retire.
Yeah, he's just not that good. And Snacks, of course, he got to the golden age of 30, or he's getting there, and they don't want to keep guys that,
Well, not at, what was he, $8 million?
I think he was right around there, yeah. And they just didn't want to pay him anymore. They had enough interior linemen for the future where they felt that he was expendable.
I mean, this team has not had a pass rush in a very long time.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, who can we say what? I mean,
the man that's coming to town this weekend.
Justin Tuck?
No, JPP.
Oh, bump, lead in.
Yeah, JPP coming to town. He's going to go up against Nate Solder. It's going to be the Giants' old philosophy versus the Giants' new philosophy. And how do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I mean, again, I think JPP needed a new change of scenery. He just had, it was the back, it was the hand, it was the sports hernia. I mean, listen,
he had a lot of issues. Yeah,
he had a lot of issues. Listen, I'm a fan. I think he's a good cat. But he just couldn't stay healthy. His body's breaking down. So I think a new change of scenery was good for him, and as his stats prove out.
Right.
And I'm sure he's got something he wants to show them that he wasn't done. So I'm sure he's got a little extra chip on his shoulder.
He's got 8 sacks this year in 9 games. That's not bad.
No, not at all. I mean, they were paying him $60 million at the Giants, and he just, he couldn't stay on the field. So, I mean, I understood why they got rid of him. Maybe not, Aquara and Snacks because they were producers, but I understand why they got rid of JPP. And, if we go year by year by year by year, it'd been a while since he had over 10 sacks. But he also wasn't afraid to play the run, which, again, Vernon refuses to do.
I don't know if he refuses to do it as much as he, it's his ability to do so. I don't think he can do it anymore. I don't know. He doesn't have it could be the ankle. He doesn't have the movement, the lateral movement. He could just be a north-south guy, but he's not doing that either. I don't know what to say.
I will say this. I mean, watching him play, numerous times, even like freeze framing and rewinding it this past Monday, he takes an inside route numerous times. I mean, he's making the tackle's job easy, just pushing him down inside. He doesn't set the edge. He doesn't stand the tackle up. He doesn't have anything but a bull rush. Mm-hmm. You're right. Talent-wise, he's not, a dynamic, 5-tool player. And then on top of it, he hurts himself by his path to the ball. I mean, he doesn't go outside in. He goes inside out. And in the NFL, guys will burn you all day if you're willing to go inside.
Yep. You're going to get swallowed up.
Yeah, and then you can tell because there is less than zero pass rush on this team.
No, it doesn't exist. I mean, they had a rookie playing against a rookie, Nick Mullins. They should have, they should have ravaged this guy, and they didn't even get close to him. They hit him, I think, 3 times. No sacks.
And the best one of the day was Carter, and he got penalized.
Right. That was kind of borderline, I thought, but
Completely borderline. Hit him with his shoulder.
Yeah.
Did not use his weight bearing down on him, but he hit him hard and he dropped him. I mean,
that's the rule now. You can't do it.
Well, I thought the rule was you can't bring your body weight on him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the play, he hits him with the right shoulder. His arm is extended across, but he doesn't land on it. Like Clay Matthews' first hit was his entire 260 whatever 5-pound frame on the quarterback. I did not think Zoe Carter came down with his body weight on him, but he did make a hit and then made what you would, I guess, call almost like a tackle.
Yeah. Like I said, that's a tough call. It depends on where the official is when they make the call too. The angle they have. Not a good. Maybe this official didn't have a good angle on that, but the replay showed it. He basically did everything he could not to drive him into the ground.
Yeah,
that's what I thought anyway. But it was borderline. But I could see why they called it.
And it's glaring on how many problems the Giants need to fix. You're tied for last, I think, in the NFL for sacks. So now you're like, okay,
no,
well,
Oakland is last.
Oh, they're last now.
Yeah.
They finally clicked off past the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the Raiders have like 7 or 8, and the Giants have 10.
So it's so interesting because think about it. What's the number one expensive player to have on your team?
It's going to be a quarterback.
What's the number 2 most expensive player to have on your team?
It's going to be the guy that hits the quarterback.
What are the 2 positions the Giants need?
Both. They need both of them. Well, they don't really need the quarterback as much as they need the pass rusher. Well,
yeah. I mean, need and want are 2 different things, no doubt. And it's kind of blurry because, you're only going to have so many years at 2-14 and 3-13. At that point, you got to make a decision if you're going quarterback or not. And I don't know how many dynamic pass rushers there are beside Bosa's brother.
No, there's a few. You'll see a few guys there coming in the draft. We'll start to analyze that as things get closer. But I don't think that's what they'll be looking for in this draft. But it depends on where they're picking too. You pick towards the middle of the round or later in the top 10. You're not going to get that franchise quarterback if he exists. I don't think. In this past draft, I'm looking at the quarterbacks that came out, and I'm not quite sure any of those guys would have been the solution for this team. Instead of Barkley, I don't think any of those guys were the right guy.
Barkley's a fun guy to watch, so it's really hard to, hate on the guy. He's a team guy. He's the leader. He's going to be here for a while. I mean, the flip side of it is what quarterback looks good on a bad team? It's really hard to see Rosen and Darnold.
True.
I mean, I killed Baker Mayfield. I killed him. 95% of the quarterbacks under 6 feet do not make it. Just happened to be that Drew Brees is one, and 15 years later, you got Baker Mayfield. But he's only in 1 year, but he looks like he can play.
He can make plays, yeah. I don't think I think he might actually be the best of all of them.
Yeah, I think he's got a huge chip on his shoulder, and he plays big, just like Drew Brees does. But none of the quarterbacks are going to look good on a bad team, so it's going to be really hard to judge. The true judgment will be is when they start year 3, what do they do with that team?
Yeah. When the organization builds around them to the point where, okay, now you got to produce.
So, it's really hard to say that if, the Giants won't take a quarterback. Unless you've got something up your sleeve, regardless if they want him or need him, I don't see how they get around it. But it's also very hard for a franchise to need a pass rusher and a quarterback at the same time.
Yeah, and we're seeing that here.
Yeah,
and
so I don't.
Not good.
I don't know how to.
That's not good when your two marquee positions.
Well, think about it.
Are completely ignored over the years.
Yeah, and you have to make a choice. And if I'm not mistaken, the history tends to repeat itself. You're willing to go pay a big defensive end, like Vernon, and draft a QB. It's not going to be go find a free agent quarterback and draft a defensive end.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about Saquon Barkley while we're on the subject. He's an explosive player. He's obviously a better receiver than he is a scrimmage rusher at this point in his career. And a lot of people are beginning to point out the reasons why. And I think you've touched on this before, is his bouncing to the outside when he can't find a hole instead of waiting that split second and being a little more patient along the line of scrimmage. And I think Jeff Schwartz, the old Giants lineman,
yeah, he's really good with his analysis.
He put that piece up on Twitter. He put a little video up on how Barkley didn't take the first hole, didn't follow his blocking. The blocking was there. This was 2 plays he showed. And went in the other direction because he didn't plant and go straight up the middle. He decided to hit the next hole to the right. And that closed up. And then he ended up getting tripped up. So he should follow his blocking. I think the problem is the Giants have to be more consistent with the blocking. But he also has to be able to read that. And as a rookie in this league, he's not doing that. In college, he didn't need to do that because he could bounce it outside and beat everybody with his speed. In the NFL, he can't do that. Guys are going to get you. They're going to trip you up. They're going to catch you from behind. On occasion, he could do that, but you'll see most of his big plays, come off passes rather than runs, right?
He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games under 15 carries. I don't know how much flow you're going to get if you're not getting the carries either. So
that's true. He's being underutilized. I think he got 21 carries in this game.
Yeah, 20 carries. I pulled it up here so we can, since we're talking about it, because it's definitely all rookie running backs have the propensity to bounce the ball outside because it's what they did in college because they could run by guys, right?
Yep.
And then you leap on the fact that the Giants don't have a great offensive line, and then you leap on top of that with the fact that he's a young guy and they're not giving him enough carries. So game against the Jags, he had 18 carries for $106. Okay, nice debut, right?
Yep.
Cowboys, he only got 11 carries for 28 yards. 11 carries. I mean, What are you going to do with 11 carries? Then against the Texans, 17 carries, barely over 15 for 82 yards. It's better, right? And then the next week, again, and it's 1 week on, 1 week off because the Texans, he's got 17 carries. Then the Saints, he's got 10 carries. So they drop him by 10 carries for 44 yards. Then they go to the Panthers, 15 carries. He's up 5 carries, still 48 yards. And then against the Eagles, 13 carries, but he breaks a couple that game. 13 carries for 130 yards, which is, of course, 10 yards a carry. So he looks fantastic there. Pretty even against the Falcons, 14 for 43. Redskins, 13 for 38. And then finally they give him the ball against the 49ers, 20 carries for 67 yards, and that's still light. So
yes,
a lot of it has to do with, also I think wearing the defense down. You still have to give him the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 games in a row, they're under 100 yards rushing, and that's not where they should be. They're throwing the ball 70% of the time in close games. Okay, these games are close. They're not blowouts. The Atlanta game was close. Washington game was close. You know, in the third quarter, it was a 3 to 7 point difference, right? And of course, they were winning in San Francisco, and then they came back to win, but still, it was a close game.
I mean, right now he's got 586 yards rushing.
Yeah.
He's averaging 4.5 yards a carry. He's got 5 touchdowns. And he also has 62 receptions for 530 yards and 8.5 yards a catch and 2 touchdowns. So, like, I mean, he's on his way to Rookie of the Year, but that still doesn't get you, the full complement of what he can do. I think you hit the nail on the head with people are starting to, analyze his game a little bit more because he's having more success with the pass catching, but it seems like there's a good reason why.
Defenses will read that. If they know that he's not going to hit that hole to stick it and go up the middle, they'll get him. They'll start to get him more often. He's got to he's got to draw them in, and he's not doing that. He's in the middle of the field. He's not utilizing the middle of the field. And even if you go into the line and go nowhere a couple of plays, you still they'll have to respect that. And I think that's when it'll come.
I think Brown will help out there a lot because as you probably watched the game and saw the game, I mean, there was a completely different feel.
Yeah.
Again, I know it's San Francisco, but they're still NFL teams, right?
Yep.
He was picking up stunts, and all of a sudden, like, Eli had some clean pockets. So
he's a good lineman.
Yeah, good lineman. Might be our best one.
Yeah, I mean, Obama was a bum. I mean, geez. And Jacksonville picked him up this week. They must be really hard up.
Yeah, picking up Flowers and Omame.
Yeah, yeah. Blake Bortles, they must hate him. They must want him to get killed.
They're probably up there. Tom's probably up there thinking, okay, if I bring all the Giants linemen in, which are bad, and I kill Bortles, maybe I can sway Eli to come here for a year.
Yeah. But, they have Pat Flaherty down there, so, he's a pretty good teacher, so he'll probably make something out of those guys now. You watch.
Well, time will tell. Yeah, no doubt. But, to digress, I'm with you on the Barkley thing, but, again, he is a rookie. He's having a nice year. He's on, I mean, again, if you're a guy who likes the analytics, he's got 1,100 yards from line of scrimmage, 1,200.
The numbers are there, but the thing is that he should have a lot more.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. He's playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in football.
And the thing was on the Twitter post by Schwartz is all the yards I'm leaving on the field.
That's easy for him to say, by the way.
No, that's what Barkley was saying.
Oh, okay.
Barkley said, I'm leaving a lot of yards on the field, and then Schwartz showed how he's doing it. And I found it to be amazing because, that's a knack, Oh, and I always found that it was the guys with the lowest center of gravity, like the Emmitt Smiths, the Tiki Barbers, the Terrell Davises, that always found those holes in the middle of the field. You say, how does a little guy like that gain all those yards through all these big guys?
Patience. And
they see it develop. And, Barkley is like 6 foot maybe. I don't know. They say he's 6'1". I don't think he's 6'1". But when you lower your center of gravity, you kind of can see things opening. Because everybody's standing straight up on the line of scrimmage, and you're crouched.
I mean, if they're smart.
You know how football works, right?
Well, I don't know. I got 7 concussions. I still think I remember how it works.
Yeah.
I would think that Barber maybe comes in if they're working with Tiki anyway. Maybe they bring Barber in, for a little consult, teach him how to slow down a little bit, or maybe he develops on his own. But, I know the Giants have always done bringing in Jesse Armstead, bringing in Amani Toomer and let these guys.
Those guys are always around. They come in. Yeah. Armstead actually works for the team. Toomer works for the team. Everybody's hanging around. Tyree is always there.
Yep.
There's always guys, hanging around that are giving pointers. If they're not officially working for the team, they're coming in to help out or whatever. But I don't think Barkley needs to just watch a little more film, I think.
Okay.
I think that'll help him. And, the thing is that he's got different guys blocking for him. Now, if he has the same guys blocking for him, they'll understand. They'll get a little continuity, and maybe that'll flesh itself out. We'll see.
Yeah, I think, again, it's early. You still got, 7 games.
Yeah, they got 7 games, and Odell says they're aiming for 9 and 7.
I will tell you that would be, regardless of the draft, putting that aside, I mean, listen, it's probably 1 in a million that happens, but
yeah,
that would just be like the whole city would be on fire if they did that.
They're playing some beatable teams.
They are, but
I'm looking at their schedule. I think Philadelphia is beatable.
I agree.
Okay, Chicago is beatable.
No way. I think Chicago paced them.
Yeah, but I think Chicago's beatable. I've seen them play some really poor games. Washington they can beat if they play a decent game. Tennessee's a tough team, but they don't score.
No.
Okay.
I'm worried about Khalil Mack having 9 sacks.
Yeah. Okay. You think that's the game? Okay. Then they don't win that one. That game is away too, so it doesn't matter. They haven't won at home this year, so who cares where they play? Like Tommy Lasorda said one year when they asked him, he said, we can't win at home, we can't win on the road. He says, we're running out of places to play.
Good old Tommy.
Yeah. I mean, he was right. I mean, the Giants, doesn't matter where they play.
Yeah. I was just chalking up the fact that, I don't think Eli went into this game thinking, oh, man, I got to face X, because San Francisco doesn't scare anybody on the pass rush, and then you get a 340-pound new tackle. I think he felt pretty good. I think he's literally going to fold his tent looking at Khalil Mack being like, I'm not letting this guy hit me. Yeah.
The Giants will really be up against it if he's out there. He's been hurt, but, and when he's in the game, he's a huge impact player. Huge impact player. I mean, you spend 10 years looking for a guy like that, and Oakland just traded him away. I couldn't figure that out for the life of me.
I don't know if it was Gruden or Davis, but somebody didn't want to pay.
No idea why I don't care who it was. I mean, you just don't do that. We don't get guys like that. Yeah, especially, and then as soon as he came to the Bears, you saw how good he was. Single-handedly almost won a game for them.
And again, it almost looks like it's a man playing against boys because, while he's not like an LT type of guy, he's just around the ball all the time. He's just that much faster and that much stronger than who he's facing on a week in and week out basis.
Yeah, when we talk about Mack, he comes from the University of Buffalo, and it just goes to show you that all the talent, isn't in the 5, conferences. There's a lot of talented players in this country. You got to find them. And if you have a good scouting, apparatus, you'll find guys like that. I mean, he wasn't hard to find, but Buffalo does play some decent competition, and of course he was well promoted. But there's a lot of good guys in these smaller schools. You just have to find them, like Michael Strahan. Was it Texas Southern or whatever it was he came from? There's a lot of guys. OCU and Ura, Troy, not a big school. So, they have to start looking at guys like that and stop following around Alabama and Georgia and these other schools all the time. You look at who they're drafting. I mean, it's always a big school now. They're not getting those small school gems like they used to. Somebody mentioned that to me, and I said, yeah, you know what? You're right. What happened to those guys who used to get from those obscure colleges like Phil Simms out of Morehead State?
Yeah, those days are gone. But, I mean, they're out there.
They're out there. I mean, you got to find them. And then they haven't been able to do that. Every year they're drafting somebody out of LSU. I mean, anybody could scout LSU. They're on TV every week. Anybody could do that. I could do that without getting out of my lounge chair.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No, I'm serious. Okay, we're going to take an offensive tackle. Okay, let's go see who's at Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. All right, Wisconsin. You could do that, but, a guy like Will Hernandez, UTEP. Okay, that's a good pick.
How about Boise?
Boise is a big school.
All right, because I don't know a lot of players that come out of Boise, and that linebacker the Cowboys drafted out of Boise looks like the real deal, man.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, he's a first rounder, and everybody knew he was a first rounder. See, that's what happens when the draft nicks get a hold of a guy, thanks to social media and, cable television, like somebody like a Todd McShay or a Mel Kiper or somebody gets a hold of the guy's name, he just rockets up the charts. I mean, this kid just, Van Der Esch, right? He just happened to be a good player. But there's a lot of guys that aren't good players that these guys bang the drum for, and teams fall for it and they draft them.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Have you seen the guy play? A lot of times teams draft guys without even seeing them play.
Yeah, I think that was everything that Jerry Reese ever did.
They looked at their combine numbers and they fell in love with the guy's athleticism and ceiling and upside and all those other BS words they use. How about, can he play the game of football? Bill Parcells always said, if I'm running a track team, I'd take that guy in a second. But this is a football team.
Yeah.
We play with pads.
I just look at this kid and they're already talking about, you listen to the rumor mill around the NFL, and Sean Lee got hurt, and they're already talking about cutting Sean Lee for this kid. And I'm like, how good could this kid be? And then I'm like, Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year. He's 6'4", 256. He ran a 4.6.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the prototypical middle linebacker. How come we can't find one of those?
Well, they drafted him like 20th. I mean, he was down in the middle of the draft.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, so, he's the kid. He was drafted in the right spot. Take him, at number 2. So, if we were drafted 19th, maybe we would have taken him.
No, Jerry Reese would have messed that up.
Jerry Reese would have taken, a cornerback out of, Ohio State.
And then we'd turn around and trade him to the Saints.
Trade him for a 4th round pick.
And that kind of reminds me of picks and drafts. So if the Giants win a couple games and they lose that number 1 pick,
they're going to win a couple of games here. I'm telling you, because they're going for it. They're not going to tank.
No,
they refuse to tank.
I will say this, and I will, and I hope everyone that listens to the podcast understands this. And I'm not saying this for any other reason than it is the God's honest truth. NFL players do not tank. I turned on
the players don't tank, but the organization could tank. You know what I'm saying? They
Agreed.
could decide to play the backups.
They could, but I mean, I've never seen it done. Like NBA, baseball.
Have you been watching the Raiders? Even though the Raiders actually played a good game last week.
Yes, but there's only because here's the thing: if you put a guy in who can't get play, you're going to get him hurt. Somebody's going to put their helmet under his chin strap and light him up.
Yeah.
Like the NFL doesn't tank. They of course maybe they don't reactivate a guy or something like that, but Sunday when the whistle goes off, those guys play football. They don't miss free throws, or they don't not play defense, or they don't swing for the seats, or they don't not run out a ground ball. These guys are playing a physical game. You play half speed, you get hurt.
Of course, yeah. No, that's not what tanking in football is. Not like tanking in basketball.
Exactly.
If people don't understand that, guys aren't going to go out there and go through the motions. You can't do that.
That's what I've been hearing, like left and right. I flipped on this satellite station, happened to be a station up in Boston, and these guys were going crazy about tanking. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Have they ever played the game of football in their life?
That's not the right word, tanking.
Correct.
Okay, what they're doing is they're refocusing, their goals.
Their resources.
Yeah, and their resources. Yeah, so we're going to play our backup quarterback or Kyle Lauletta. We're going to see what he can do. So when you do that, winning is not the number 1 priority anymore.
Agreed.
That's what we call tanking.
So
playing your bench guys to see what they can do. And sometimes those guys end up being better or just as good, and you end up winning. Who knows?
yeah, and we need to come up with a different word because the word tanked is driving me
Yeah,
crazy.
you're right. That's not a good word. I don't like that word. That's a basketball word. I think the whole NBA tanks, if you ask me.
Yeah, of course.
Who watches it anyway?
Yeah, well, young men between the ages of 12 and 22.
Yeah, I mean, I would only watch it if I had money on it. You know?
Exactly.
That's the only reason why I would watch it.
So
Just
let me
like
ask
a
you
horse
this,
race. Why would you go to the track and just watch the horses run without betting them?
to get out of the house and away from your wife.
Well, that's yeah. You could do that if you have to go to the track to do that.
But that's why most of them go, right? All right, so here's the $1 million question I have for you. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I want you to picture for a second. I have to look up the year, but you'll know the year because you're good with years. Herschel Walker.
All right.
Okay. Or Ricky Williams.
Okay.
Those franchises gave up arms, legs, bodies, cars, money, everything for those individual players.
Yes.
Right? Minnesota and the
two of the craziest trades in the history of sports. But go ahead.
The Herschel one.
Both of them.
Yeah, and Ricky Williams. Yep. So do the Giants or will the Giants, so let's say they win 4 games, right?
Right.
Will the Giants do anything possible because of the heat they took this past year, and I know they love Barkley and they are, very adamant about saying that it was the right pick, but you don't always get to choose a quarterback and with the first 5 picks. Will the Giants do whatever it takes to draft number 1 to get the quarterback of their choice, whether it's Greer or the kid from Duke or Herbert? Will they do whatever it takes? Because Gettleman seems like that type of guy to me. So my question to you is, will the Giants do whatever it takes to draft a quarterback this year?
There's 2 parts to that. Okay, first of all, they have to absolutely commit to themselves that Eli's not coming back. And they also have to find out if one of their backups, just in case this doesn't happen, can play. We've got to see that. We've got to see that this year. We've got to see both of those guys play. Okay, not just Lauletta, but the other guy, Tanny, also. You have to see them both play. All right, maybe not so much Tanny, but you want to see if Lauletta can play. If he can play, and you think he could be a quarterback in this league, a starter, all right, that's going to change how you draft next year. Okay, plus the slot you're in is really going to change how you draft. It takes a lot to get from 5 to 1. It's going to take you a couple of number 1s, a couple of number 2s. Look at what the Jets had to do to flip with the Colts to get from 5 to 3. They had to give up 3 number 2s and their number 1. They switched number 1s. So, and the Colts got the guy they wanted anyway, Quentin Nelson, the lineman from Notre Dame. So they made out very well. But the Jets didn't give up a number 1, which was good. But the Giants, they would probably have to do that in this draft, because the way I'm looking at it right now, I think that Oakland is going to be on top. Arizona is going to be in the mix. San Francisco is probably still going to be in the mix. Okay? Then the Jets are not playing well at all. They may not win another game.
But they don't need a quarterback.
But somebody will trade up with them. See, this is where the Jets will get all those number 2 picks back, those second-round picks back. They'll trade out of that position, and they'll get all their draft picks back. So it's funny how that works, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's what they'll do. To them, they need everything besides a quarterback now, if you ask me. They have their quarterback. They need everything, the Jets. You look at their team is terrible. They need a new coach. They need a new coaching staff. They need everything. They started the year like a house of fire, and, the house burned down.
Yeah, and there's no end in sight either.
Yeah, this you could see that where they're lacking in a lot of places.
Because my thought would be is, we're collecting some draft picks here. They're not, they're all, fourth round picks and so forth. But like, is there a way that I don't know. I see that there's 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks that are gonna be eligible and have what it takes, or at least from a speculation standpoint.
There's a few things they could do. There was talk today, Pat Leonard in the Daily News.
Oh,
it's always stirring the pot.
Are you quoting Pat Leonard? How dare you?
Yeah, but this is something that Boomer Esiason had said on the air.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, he's reporting that. Boomer is saying that there's talk in Cleveland that they want to make a move with the Giants to get Odell Beckham Jr. And Cleveland has so many draft picks, they can't use them all. Or they don't want to use them all. Okay, so they want to, group them together and get themselves some, NFL level players.
No way is that going to happen.
Okay.
No way.
I'm saying I don't see it happening either, but that's something that Cleveland is crazy enough to do.
Yes. But let's think about it. If you're OBJ, you're going to go hang out with your best friend, right?
Yeah. Jarvis
Landry.
Yeah.
In Cleveland, and still be on a bad team, and now
you don't know if they're going to be a bad team.
There's no way that they're going to put, 2 great wide receivers on a team. Like, okay, let's say the max they win is 6 games, 7 games. You need more than 2-star wide receivers, and they have to split the catches, right? The touches.
Yep.
And there's no shot that Beckham's going to not be in New York and give up those endorsements. There's nothing going on in Cleveland but the rent. I cannot see that guy who's an international star go to one of the smallest markets on the planet just because Jarvis Landry's there.
Well, he doesn't have a no trade clause.
No.
He could get traded.
I
don't want to trade him. I don't think they should trade him at all.
Listen, the Giants.
But that's a way to get back a lot of picks.
I hear you. I mean, coming from Boomer, who hates the Giants. I mean, if Sims said it, maybe I would feel a little bit better about it, or something like that. But I just don't see it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you'll have the fans literally burning their tickets. I mean, they love the guy. They want, or at least a portion of the fan base loves the guy.
They're not winning with him. That's the thing.
But it's not because of him.
Yeah, but you know what? You could make a case. We could argue about this all day. But if you're not winning, this is when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s. The Giants didn't win at all. They lost almost every year. Okay? And we would just watch the games and go to the games. And we would just like certain players. The team wasn't good. It wouldn't be like, oh, I'm a big Giants fan, No, I was a Fran Tarkenton fan. I was a Jack Gregory fan or a Ron Johnson who just passed away, a fan of his. That's what we would watch. That's what we hung our hats on. That's what these kids are doing now. They're going there and watching individuals play.
That's because of fantasy football.
Well, no, I'm talking about kids. That's what they're watching. Not saying, oh, the Giants. They know the Giants aren't going anywhere. So they just root for certain players. This is my favorite player. I just want to see him. I'm not here, it's 3rd and 4. Let's get that first down. No, I'm here to see Odell. I'm here to see, Saquon. And that's the joy they get out of it. That's the way we were when we were kids.
Yeah.
And that's the way a lot of Jet fans were for many, many years because they knew they weren't going to win. And they would just go see certain players.
I mean, I would trade Ingram in a heartbeat.
I don't know why you want to trade. Why do you want to trade him?
I want to trade him because I've got tight end envy. Our tight end is not dynamic, does not catch the ball. I mean, listen, I don't know. Maybe it's our system. Maybe it's Shermer. Maybe it's Eli. I don't know what it is. But he just doesn't work for me. Not even from day one. Yes, he had a nice rookie season. But, when Shockey got here, he was running dudes over, catching balls over Hall of Fame safeties, Brian Dawkins. He was just making it happen. You were like, you either hated his guts because of the chip on his shoulder, or he was from Miami. But I mean, the guy just played. Bavaro running guys. Ingram does absolutely
He's a different
zero.
type of player, I think. He's not as big as those guys either.
No, but I mean, I don't know. I'm watching guys like Kittle come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I'm watching guys like be productive, and he's just not productive. He doesn't command the ball. He doesn't, no one's scheming against him. No one's afraid of him. And then when you throw him the ball, he drops it anyway. So, if you're going to package someone to go to Cleveland, package up Ingram.
Yeah.
Because I just don't, I don't know. That would just
he's not making the plays that they need him to make. And then they're not even going to him. The other night, they only started throwing him the ball late in the game. Right? And then you had mentioned before we went on air is that he dropped one, which he didn't really drop it. It was stripped out of his grip, but I don't think anybody could have caught it. But still, that's what we call a contested catch in this business. You got to make those too.
Yeah. So for me, I think, you really need the quarterback, and I don't know, maybe you find maybe it's Lalletta's the stopgap, for 2 years. And it's so funny, John, because, these young guys don't know what it was when we had Kent Graham and Dave Brown and Danny Cannell, and they don't remember it. And all of a sudden, if Odell goes, you're going to have misery because Barkley's going to get pounded, and you're going to have no one to throw the ball to, and you're going to have some some journeyman QB, and literally it will be the doldrums all over again. So I'm hoping that strategically, because there are teams out there, I don't know how they do it. They just do it. Like the Patriots just find a way to do it. They find football players. Like you find a backup Division I AA quarterback, and you make him a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, how does that happen?
These are, these are top-notch thinkers that do this. We don't have that here. Okay, we have tried and true method guys like Gettleman. He believes in having the big asses in the trenches. Big guys help you compete. He's the kind of guy who looks at the kinetic right away. He doesn't want to see the potential. He wants to see if a guy can do it, and he wants to bring them in and so they can do it. He doesn't want any surprises. He's a meat and potatoes guy. And that's the way your team's going to be run. There's going to be very little creativity here, especially when it comes to the roster.
Yeah, and flipping the roster 70% did not help us.
Well, they just changed the names. The results are still the same. Anybody could do that,
And the free agents are all a bust.
Pretty much. But the guys they picked up in season, Jamon Brown, right? Look at Corey Coleman now. He could end up being a big contributor for them.
Yep.
And there's a guy that was a bust. He was in some bad places. I mean, Cleveland's a terrible place to be. No direction. He was a little immature at the time. Now he's on his fourth team. Patriots didn't want him.
As long as he can return the ball.
And, he could play offense, too. I mean, he had a nice catch the other night for a first down.
Yep.
So he could be that third receiver, that fourth receiver or whatever. And look at their offense now. They've got a first-round pick. Look, how many first-round picks are on their offense?
Eli, Barkley, Ingram, Odell.
Right.
Solder.
Yep. Coleman.
Coleman was the first one?
Yeah, he was like the 15th player taken, 2016.
Okay. Coleman, that's like 7 players right there.
Yeah, you would think you'd have something going with that, right?
I just feel that Eli's going to go, and it's just going to be so we're going to struggle to get to 6-10 for 2 years. Like I just want them. I love these teams who just, go, Brett Favre, leaves and Aaron Rodgers steps in. Like
Yeah.
some of these teams, they just figure it out. Alex Smith goes and Mahomes steps in, or
Yeah.
like I don't want to have the the 3-4 year quarterback search.
That even the best laid plans could end you with that, because you can swing and a miss on a quarterback, and that's a 5-year swing and miss. You bring a guy in, you're going to keep him for 4 years. I mean, look at Tampa Bay, the team they're playing this week. Who's playing quarterbacks Sunday? Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, the guy's having a good year, but when he's bad, he's bad. When he's good, he's good. The guy's, he's turning the ball over just as much as he's scoring. He's fun to watch. But, look at Jameis Winston. He's terrible. Terrible.
I'm not saying this for any other reason. Like, I have no crystal ball, but I never liked him to begin with. I just didn't think. I think he had too many off-field distractions in college, and it carried right over.
He just has no discipline. None. And I'm talking about on-field. Off-field, everybody grows up at some point. But on the field, he has no discipline. He never learned, to stay out of danger. And he's just throws the ball in trouble all the time. He gets himself in trouble. It's terrible. I mean, it's the worst kind of quarterback you can have. Is a quarterback that turns the football over. Because that's a ball game for you right there. You're never going to win with a guy like that. And the Jets saw that with Darnold. He started the turnover bug came back. And look how bad they looked when he was making the poor decisions.
So, well, we spent a good portion of the time on the offense. Anything that we should cover on the defensive side?
Besides the fact that Carter should play every play, no. Carter should play every down. I don't see why they would not do that. Who are they giving his snaps to? All right? I mean, they're going to give him more. I know Betcha talked about it today. They're going to give more snaps. He needs more snaps. He needs to play 50 at least. He needs to play, 75% of the snaps. At least.
Who's he rotating with?
Well, he's out there with, they're giving Connor Barwin some snaps, which wouldn't be bad if he would get to the quarterback, right? He doesn't.
He used to kill the Giants.
Yeah, O.V., Martin. Okay, you could take your choice. I mean, the Giants paid a lot of money for these guys, so maybe that's why they want to see them out on the field if they're healthy. But this kid, he's the future. Get him out there. I don't know. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to me. I think they're finally making the call in the secondary. You're seeing more Grant Haley, and you're liking him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like Haley a lot.
You're seeing Sean Chandler. He's playing pretty good.
I like Chandler a lot too. He's got a great story. I was writing something for we talked about it last week. I was going to write a piece on NY Giants rush, and my system crashed and I lost the whole piece.
Moo.
Yeah. So that's another story for another day. But you're talking about a kid was defensive player of the year by the Philadelphia Inquirer. Grew up, lived in homeless shelters, didn't always have a house to live in.
Yeah.
One of 5 kids, got some money to play at Temple. Here's the coolest story about Chandler. So at Temple, if you're considered one of the toughest guys on the team, they give you, in camp, they give you a single-digit number to wear.
Right.
So every year, every summer when camp starts, they start with new numbers. And if someone comes along and earns his stripes, they give him a single-digit number. Only the toughest kids that they deem the toughest, players on the team get a single-digit number. And Chandler wore number 3 all 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, good for him. It
Yeah,
shows. It shows. The kid's got guts. He knows. He just needs to be brushed up on the finer points, and then he's going to be a fine player.
And he was a corner that they converted to safety, because I had some conversations with some of the followers on Twitter, and you got people down on Collins, and this guy, he's going to want too much money, and this and that. Are they going to franchise?
He is going to want too much money for a guy who can't cover anybody one-on-one. That's a little bit of an issue.
I mean, it's so hard because, for me to analyze it, because 2 years ago he was one notch from Defensive Player of the Year.
I know. It's really odd. You saw the way Kittle just burned him every play. And Kittle's not that fast.
No, so that's kind of like I was saying, do we really know the whole story? Maybe we do, but if the optics are what it is, yeah, he can't cover. But 2 years ago, we had a young Nat Beret, and he had a young Darian Thompson.
Yeah,
those guys maybe were just better on-field communicators, or maybe they were just more dynamic in space.
It's got Curtis Riley, and Curtis Riley is not,
I just don't know how.
Not cutting
maybe
it.
He's way in over his head. Great backup player, but not starter. And I don't know if we should be killing him or not, because here's the thing: a guy like OV got paid his max contract, and he doesn't get enough pushback on his production. But Collins, who leaves it out, regardless if he gets burned or not, the guy plays whistle to whistle, right?
Yep.
He leaves it all out in the field. He thumps with the big guys. He's a football player. I don't know if Betcher's using him right. I don't know what the on-field communication is like. But you don't throw away football players.
No.
Where OV's not a football player. He's literally just barely doing the minimum and taking money. And he barely gets any static for it, where everybody wants to judge Collins. It should be a roasting of Vernon and what little he's done for this team, and has hamstrung the front office with this contract, right? And then here comes Collins, who's like, look, I'm giving you everything I have. So I don't want to compare him to Troy Polamalu, but they always put Troy Polamalu in the right spot, and it made him look good. Maybe they're just not using him right. I don't know.
It's a combination there. I don't think he should be as covering guys one-on-one, because he's what they call a true box safety.
Yeah.
So he shouldn't leave the box.
Yep.
And if you're covering a tight end, you're going to be out of the box.
Yeah, and then maybe there's, again, it's just, you'd really have to spend a lot of time on it. How much nickel are they playing? How much dime are they playing? And
I'm worried about this week, because O.J. Howard is one of the best up-and-coming tight ends in the league.
No doubt.
He's a big guy. He's a big guy, fast, and he can get behind Collins in a second.
Now, if you had a great free safety, maybe that wouldn't be happening.
You're right. If there was a little more teamwork out there, and I think that's where this kid Chandler could come in and maybe take that spot, but that's not going to happen this week.
No.
They're going to hang this guy Collins out to dry again.
Because I get just fed up with listening about it. I'm like, I understand what he is. Some people are like, he should be a linebacker. Well, he's 225 pounds.
Well, that's what Betcher did in Arizona with that Deion Buchanan. He made them what they call a money backer, which is a box safety. But he was an attack safety. He was a guy who went forward. He didn't backpedal and cover and get into coverage. He played the run, and he was just an additional body in the box, a faster guy. You know what I'm saying? A sideline-to-sideline guy. And I think that's what Collins is now. Does that warrant him getting a big paycheck like he wants? No. He's going to be on the field a lot, but he's not going to be your true strong safety.
No, but how do you let a guy like that walk?
It's tough. It's tough. He's got to show more in pass coverage. Otherwise, he's a one-dimensional player. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah, I know. 2 years ago, the guy was again, a notch, a click, a vote from Defensive Player of the Year. It's not the player falling off the map. The guy's been playing deep He's been playing on tight ends. He's playing box. He's got a broken forearm. I mean, like,
Yeah, I think we said in one of the last shows we did the fact that he tries to do too much.
100%.
And if he's trying to do too much, that's going to be an issue because he's going to be out of position. But on Monday night against San Francisco, that was his job. You saw him lined up against this guy. Kittle would split out. Collins would be facing off against him. And Kittle just ran past him. And that shouldn't happen because he's not faster.
No.
He's not a faster guy.
And he might be cheating a little bit or something because he's constantly was running behind him.
It's just that he doesn't have the guy has a good route running ability. Kittle, we saw that. We saw more of it. I've been watching him all year, but he still shouldn't catch that many passes. I mean, it's not like he's just beating him. He's beating him by a lot.
Well, let me ask you this: why doesn't then Michael Thomas get more snaps then?
Right. He might see that. You might see that.
I mean, he started in San Francisco. He started with the Dolphins, or at least he was a rotational guy. And he's a Riley should not be in the game.
That we've determined. That much we know. Okay, I think we're out of time, Craig. We got to wrap this up. So why don't you give your call?
You got it. You can find me on Twitter at NYGiantsRush. And, of course, check out the great content at nygiantsrush.com, Monday Morning Manning, the film room. And, of course, this podcast will be up there on – it actually has a tab for it, up in the menu bar called The Giants Guys, because that's who we are. So check that stuff out. And, hope you guys are, checking those guys out on Twitter too. And, of course, this John, where can you download the podcast?
You can go to Podbean. Just go to Giants Guys. You can go to iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify. The Giants Guys podcast. There's also the Giants Guys website, giantsguys.com. You can go there. So we're all over the net. And on those sites, you can also download the Giant Insider and Game Face Radio, two other podcasts that we do that I help produce. And it's all Giants all the time with us. So
maybe we can get some questions for next week too. So if you have questions, send John or me your questions via Twitter, and then we'll read them on air and we'll address them. So give us the content and we'll cover it.
We'll address those questions with more questions. I'm not guaranteeing any answers.
The Giants guys have no answers for you.
We don't guarantee answers. We just guarantee the more questions. We'll talk about it. How's that?
Yeah.
We'll at least talk about it.
Yeah,
okay.
We might not have anything concrete, but we'll have an opinion.
We'll give you our unabashed opinion for what it's worth. 52 years of watching the Giants is enough. Yeah, I can remember my first game was 1967. The Giants, it was at Yankee Stadium. I was, five or 6 years old. My father took me there with a bunch of his friends. And they played the Saints. The Saints were an expansion team. And the year before, the Falcons were an expansion team. And, of course, the Giants lost to them. And the Saints were an expansion team in 67. They lost to the Saints, too.
They lost a lot of games back then.
But to expansion teams. You know what an expansion team back then was made out of? Nothing. Because
the Giants don't discriminate when it comes to losses.
No. And I don't know if they didn't lose to Tampa Bay when they played them because Tampa Bay didn't win any games their first year. I think they only won 7 games in their first 3 seasons. And then in 79, they went to the championship game against the Rams. I think they lost 9-0 in the NFC championship game. But they played the Giants twice that year, and they weren't in the same division. The NFL had this crazy balanced schedule where they ended up playing teams out of your division twice for some reason. I guess because they were a last-place team, and the Giants were a last-place team the year before. And the Giants actually beat them. It was Sims. I was at the game. It was Sims' first game as a starter, and it was the Giants' first win. Tampa Bay came in. They were 5-0. The Giants were 0-5. It was in October of 79. Sims started the game, and the Giants won. Sims was 6 for 12 for 37 yards.
Look at you with the steel trap.
I wrote
man.
an article about it today. I was at the game. By that time, 79, I was 18. So I was probably drinking. Probably isn't, I was definitely drinking. And it was a good win for the Giants. It was their first win of the season, and then they rattled off a pretty good second half of the season. Sims was 6-4 the rest of the way.
Half the people listening to the podcast weren't even a thought back then.
Yeah, but it's a great time in Giant history because there was a lot of good things to come.
Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming to MetLife Stadium at 1 o'clock on Sunday. It's a Fox game, so strap in and let's see what we can do for win number 3.
Yep. All right, folks. Until next week, this is John Fennelly with Craig Santucci. Don't forget to follow me on Giants Wire, and don't forget to pick up your latest copy of the Giants Insider. So until next week, let's go Giants.
Big Blue.